A little earlier in the story, we see how he starts his first day of school with his friends. They have peculiar tastes and fantasize about meeting loli-like girls. At which point, Neen, a childhood friend of Jun's who looks like a loli, appears. She gives Jun the lunch he had forgotten at home and his friends fantasize about her. They have typical virgin conversations. At that moment, a gal named Yukana appears and looks down on Jun. Later, the Virgin Squad talks about how beautiful Yukana is. They force Jun to ask her out on a date, and one of them runs off to put a letter in her locker. When Yukana finds the letter, she goes to the meeting place and Jun has the bright idea to beg on his knees for her to go out with him. In the end, she agrees to go on a date. While walking to school, Jun thinks that everything that happened with Yukana must be a joke. His classmates cheer him up and tell him that they will be with him no matter what. At that moment, Jun receives a selfie of Yukana by text and his friends get mad at him at first for being a popular boy, but then they advise him that he should invite Yukana to karaoke. Upon arriving at the classroom, Jun tries to ask his friend Cashapp for advice, but Yukana surprises him in front of everyone by giving him a hug and acknowledging that they are boyfriend and girlfriend. Yukana and Jun go out to recess together and Neen sees them walking hand in hand. Upon asking what's going on, Yukana tells her that she and Jun are boyfriend and girlfriend, so Neen leaves the place in tears. Afterward, the couple goes to karaoke and Jun thinks everything is going according to his plan. They both sing anime songs, as Jun doesn't know any others and they start having a great time together, so he tries to kiss her but she avoids him. Jun finds an invitation to talk after class in his locker, and his friends encourage him to go on the date since that's what popular guys do. Upon arriving at the place, Jun meets another gal named Ranko. At that moment, Yukana appears and reveals that Ranko is her friend. The next day, Jun goes to the mall with Ranko and Yukana to help them buy clothes. On their way out, they run into two men trying to hit on them, so Jun tries to defend his girlfriend but one of the men pushes him and humiliates him. Yukana comes over to see if Jun is okay and Ranko leaves with the men pretending she will go on a date with them but actually ends up beating them up. As Jun returns home saddened by not being able to defend his girlfriend, Ranko intercepts him at the door and pulls him into her room. Although Jun was about to give in, he begins to remember his girlfriend Yukana and asks Ranko to leave. But the latter becomes furious and begins to tell him that nothing and no one will come between her and Yukana. At that moment, Yukana appears and asks for an explanation of what is going on, to which Ranko replies that she was just testing Jun's fidelity again. The next day, Jun is threatened again by Ranko, who tells him that he must not say a word to Yukana about what really happened. While this is going on, Cashapp sees all this wrapped up in jealousy. Jun meets up with his friends in class and they show him an influencer they were watching on stream the night before. The four of them talk about how beautiful she is and how much they fantasize about her, but Jun seems to have seen this girl somewhere. At noon, Jun has lunch with Yukana and Ranko until he is interrupted by Cashapp, who tries to talk to his friend, but Ranko takes it badly and asks him to leave. Then, they meet again in the hallway and she asks him for help to do some school activities. But as they leave, Cashapp takes him trick to a coffee shop and starts questioning him about his relationship with Yukana since he has feelings for him. At night, Shinpei watches the stream of the influencer they were talking about at school and realizes that that girl is Cashapp. The next day, Cashapp flirts with Jun to make Yukana jealous. While this is going on, Shinpei takes some pictures to gather evidence and tells the secret to his friends. At that instant, Ranko appears and interrogates them. Before the school day ends, Cashapp invites Jun to the school terrace and confesses her feelings, but he tells her that he is in love with Yukana. She then threatens him with a video she managed to record the day before in the cafeteria, but Ranko and the others arrive just in time and tell Cashapp that they know her secret, so she returns the video to Jun and leaves. This gal is Neen, who disguised herself to see if she could attract Jun's attention that way. The two of them go to school together and Neen keeps hugging Jun all the way, so he fears that Yukana might be around and get angry. Arriving at school, Jun meets Cashapp, who apologizes for what happened on the terrace the day before. But she smells another girl's perfume on Jun, which makes her start to feel jealous. That jealousy grows even more when Neen shows up and tells Jun to go home together after school, so she leaves in a rage. Yukana sees Jun in class and notices that Jun is very tired, so she invites him out for the weekend to relieve his stress. Later, Jun is put on the spot by Neen while having lunch with Yukana, as Yukana does not measure her affection for Jun. After confronting Yukana, Neen runs out of the place in tears. While having lunch, Jun asks Yukana to arrange a meeting with his friends at her house after school, and she accepts. Then, Jun runs into Cashapp while waiting for Yukana to get out of class and she insists that she can go to the meeting, so Jun ends up inviting her. Upon arriving, Jun and Yukana take advantage of the alone time they have. Just as they are starting to get affectionate, her friends show up on the scene and interrupt the moment. After a while, Shinpei, Keigo, and Minoru arrive at the gathering cringe in their outfits and propose to play the king game. They all join the game and start having fun for hours doing the challenges the game proposes. But towards the end of the game, Shinpei tries to fix the game so that he can kiss one of the girls and Jun can kiss Yukana. Only his plan goes horribly wrong and the four friends end up kissing each other, causing the girls to burst out laughing. Before saying goodbye, Yukana proposes to the group that they all get a job together so they can go on vacation to the beach. The four friends get together to plan a way to raise money for the vacation trip, which is only 41 days away. Shinpei has an ace up his sleeve as usual and proposes to the group to take advantage of his knowledge to look for a job. To Keigo he shows an ad for an anime store that is hiring staff, to Minoru he shows an ad for a kindergarten which is extremely shady, and to Junichi he offers to work in the kitchen of a cosplay-themed coffee shop. Upon arriving at the cafe, Jun discovers that Yukana and her friends also work at the cafe. The group struggles through the month counting down the days until the vacations begin. On the last day of work, the manager of the cafe pretends to have the girls read erotic novels to his customers, but Jun confronts him by telling him that he can't ask that of high school girls. At that moment, Cashapp arrives at the place and hands the phone to the manager. He receives a call from the owner of the place, who forbids him to continue with his strange event. As they return home, Yukana tells Jun that she can't wait for the vacation so she can be alone with him. The friends finally go to the beach and can't believe they're with the most popular girls in school. Later, Yukana and Ranko separate from the group to buy some things at the store. Meanwhile, Jun builds a huge sand castle with Cashapp and Nin. But he sees in the distance that two boys are talking to his girlfriend and goes to see what's going on. As soon as they see him, the girls use Jun as an escape alibi, as the men were just trying to seduce them. At night, the group wants to follow the girls to the hot springs to spy on them, but Jun objects saying it's not right, although he ends up being convinced by Shinpei. Meanwhile, Shinpei, Keigo, and Jun head out on their spying mission. Shinpei sets a trap for Jun to assess if he wasn't going to betray them as he did with the King's game, so they start chasing him and he falls off a cliff. They continue with their goal of spying on their friends, but the place is full of traps that the hot spring owner set to ensure the women's privacy. At the end of the night, Yakuna finds her boyfriend unconscious and wakes him up so they can watch the fireworks together. Back in town, Yukana runs into Dai, an old friend from high school. This makes Jun very jealous, who notices Dai's evil intentions toward his girlfriend. But upon mentioning it, Yukana is disappointed in her boyfriend, as she didn't think he would be so suspicious of her. The next day Jun has no better idea than to tell his friends, who have never had a girlfriend in their lives, about the problem. Shinpei tells him that it could be that Yukana enjoys being unfaithful for fun, although Jun doesn't think much of his friend's words. Later, he decides to apologize for not trusting her, but when he is about to do so, he sees Yukana alone with Dai and becomes convinced that she is cheating on him. The next day when they see each other, Jun is consumed by his insecurities and treats his girlfriend very badly. When he arrives at school, Cashapp asks him for a minute alone to ask him what is going on with Yukana, and he tells her that she was just playing at loving him, but never really felt anything. Cashapp can't believe Jun would say this and leaves in tears. The next day, Yukana meets with her friends at a coffee shop and is about to tell them what is going on. But Ranko leaves and goes in search of Jun. When she arrives, she confronts him and he apologizes, promising that he will go talk to Yukana as soon as possible. At that moment, Dai enters with his friends and lies to them about being with Yukana. Then, Jun gets up furious and goes to talk to him. Jun starts a heated argument with Dai and they go outside to fight. He gets beaten up by the whole gang, but his friends and Ranko come to help him so he can go talk to Yukana. He calls her on the phone to meet at the same place where they started their relationship, and she arrives sometime later. Jun apologizes to her for being so selfish and admits that at first he only wanted to be her boyfriend to lose his virginity, and confesses that he would never have spoken to her if his friends hadn't forced him to. He also thanks her for everything she has taught him and for the way she has loved him since they began their relationship. She excuses him and tells him that she never stopped loving him.